Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Sadlier School Live. It has been such a fun week getting on here every day and connecting with all of you wonderful educators and parents out there who are really doing wonderful things with these students as they're adapting to new learning styles. And I'm really excited today to bring on our next guest, Ellen Edmonds. Hello, Ellen.
Hi.
Ellen is the Executive Director of Professional Development at Sadlier School, and she is amazing. She's done a ton of webinars and master classes with us, so I'm really excited to bring her and her expertise on. So thank you, Ellen.
Oh, thank you for letting me join you.
Yes, and today our topic is fluency, and we're going to talk about the importance of fluency and things that parents and educators can be doing at home with kids to help develop fluency. So Ellen, will you kind of walk us through what fluency is and why it's important?
Sure, and we're going to talk about fluency for reading, and we're going to talk about fluency for mathematics. So the definitions are a little bit different for each of them. When we think about reading fluency, we're really talking about speed and accuracy and proper expression. Some people use the term prosody. And I have to be careful when I use the term speed or say quickly, because in the old days when I was a student, teachers talked about being able to read fast, and I would try to speed read, which isn't really what we're talking about. We're talking about conversational rate when we think about what we're looking for. So it's all three of those for reading. And when we talk about mathematics, again, the definition's broader than I sometimes think people understand. We're talking about students who have skill in carrying out procedures, and to be able to do that flexibly and accurately and efficiently and appropriately. So it's not, again, just about, as I thought when I was in elementary school, how fast and correctly can you solve, or not solve, but recite facts, and it was very rote for me.
Yep.
So, this is different, and the definition helps us understand what we're really looking for.
I like how with reading you mentioned with the speed, it's more about having this conversational pace to it. I never really thought about it like that either. I really thought more of it as what is the quantity of words you can hit in a given amount of time, but thinking about it from that conversational point makes a lot more sense to me.
I think sometimes we take the way we assess fluency and interpret it a little differently, but if we think about the best theater performance we've seen, that's really the sort of thing we're looking for students, and the results are the same brain-wise if we think about it that way.
Yeah. So what are ways that educators and parents can help assist students with their fluency?
Well, let's talk about reading first, and I think we could probably talk the rest of the time we have together about reading. There are lots of different ways. The first thing that I really like to emphasize is model fluent reading. A lot of children don't have in their heads and in their ears the thought of what a fluent reader sounds like. And so that means if you're a reader as a parent, then you can read aloud to your child and model that. Sometimes we feel uncomfortable with our own reading, and even teachers who read aloud a lot to students like to alter it. So what I love about the current times we're in, despite all the things I don't love about it, is that principals have recorded themselves reading aloud. Wonderful actors have recorded themselves reading aloud. Great, leaders have recorded themselves reading aloud. And so we can have students listen to that as well as listening to us model, but that modeling is really important. It's important for students to read and reread. That repeated reading is really important. I think there's just so many things we can do. We can do phrase reading, so little sentence fluency, so you can write a sentence on a card and ask the child to read it. I love readers theater, so when you're at home, if you've got more than one child in particular, but even if it's just you and your child, or if you're a teacher and you're doing a Zoom meeting, to have the students take a poem and take parts in reading that. So that's a great tool.
Oh, that's cute. I like it. So you actually set it up like they're on stage and they're performing to their classmates or to their family members.
Sure, you can do partner reads, which can be to your sister or brother, or to your dog, or to your stuffed animal, or to your grandma on FaceTime, or whatever it might be.
Yes.
Those are helpful, I think. You can do some work on vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that will help students will be to be familiar with words, and so pronunciation of words. So that's something you can do. I know you had an idea. I've got an old-fashioned way of doing it, but you'd heard something from.
Yeah. So we shared this on our social media channels earlier this week, but we are seeing students who are actually setting up their parents' iPhones or an iPad or some kind of a device, and they're recording themselves reading that book. So it just gives them an opportunity to practice that fluency, and then they can go back and rewatch it. And it's kind of fun for them because they're like, ooh, I made my own YouTube video.
Yeah, so in the olden days, we used to tape students, and I used to record my own children. So if you have an old-fashioned recording device around, or can find one somewhere, that's another way of doing it that might not take.
I love it. And on top of that, then you get to keep that as a little memory that you can cherish and go back and look at years from now.
It's a wonderful one. Another thing, when I said, families, parent or grandparent modeling for students, you can take turns reading the same passage. So I can read a couple of paragraphs for my child, and then the child can read, and a teacher can do the same thing. So those are some of the ways that we can really help our children develop reading fluency. There are lots more.
Yeah, I love it. Those are great tips, and they're so easy for people to incorporate into their day-to-day routine, which is, that's kind of my goal with teaching my kids at home, is to really incorporate it into our daily schedule so it just feels like a natural learning moment.
And we've got some great resources on our Sadlier website that I know that you'll share with folks as a.
Yes. I'm going to be linking in the video for all of you here today a couple of things. One, Ellen has done some past webinars for us on this topic, so I'm going to drop those into the link, as well as we have different activities on our resource center to help with fluency, and primarily we have some really fun math downloads that do this. So I'm going to drop some links into there as well. And the third link I'm going to share with you guys is a link to our online learning page, where we've bullet pointed out all of the resources that we have for non-customers and for customers as well. And Ellen, what were a few of those resources that customers might want to look at?
Sure. If you think about for reading with our vocabulary program, Vocabulary Workshop Tools for Comprehension, there are audio versions of passages that would give students a chance to hear a fluent read of a passage, and then students could read that brief passage themselves. We certainly have, with our progress materials, several pieces of text that could be read, and so those would be great for students to use. And I haven't talked yet about math. Maybe I could talk about math and talk about some of the resources.
Yeah, please do.
But, it's really important with math, and very different from the way that I was taught to think about fluency when I began to teach. What we really want for our students is first to have conceptual understanding. And so that means that we don't want to try to build fluency with an operation that your child, a student, hasn't learned yet. And that means that, hey, don't think you can get ahead, that your second grader hasn't learned division yet, but you're going to introduce them to division. They really need to be focusing on the operations they've learned, and so focusing on addition and subtraction. We want the students to have lots of opportunities to practice. Practice builds math fluency, and they're initially certainly going to focus in a more narrow way, and then broaden that, and then apply it in problem solving. So we have virtual manipulatives that can be a support tool for students, because the visuals will be helpful. I want to just remind parents and teachers that we used to think about timing students, but those time parameters actually cause anxiety and may interfere with students' development of fluency. So on our website, we have a wonderful fluency game. So that's something that I think you would want to use. And so the astronaut run, metagalactic, sorry, whoa, I just lost the name of the program. So astronaut run, and then
the Makita math stuff.
Metagalactic math.
Uh-huh.
And then we have some flashcards.
Okay.
That are wonderful because for math, you don't want to continue to practice what you already know. So you can actually indicate the particular facts that you need to work more on and use the flag for that so that you're focusing on what you need to continue to practice on. So those are great resources. And as you mentioned, we have some wonderful fluency supports online. But parents can do a lot of things too. We have online our mental math activities, which are really about fluency, but parents can do that too. You can be in your kitchen preparing something and just say, hey, you know, I need to add 2 cups of rice to this recipe, and I also need to add 4 cups of water. How many cups would that be? And that mental math opportunity is really a great one for your students. So there are some really simple things that we can do to support students. Just getting them to mentally calculate can be very beneficial for them.
Yeah, and again, I like how it's a real life application and you can just fold it into your day-to-day routine, like with making dinner or that sort of thing.
Yeah, so you know, when I think about fluency, I really hope that everyone understands how critical it is to being a good reader and being a good mathematician. Not in isolation, it's integrated with all of the aspects of being a good reader and all of the aspects of being a good mathematician. But what that fluency does for us is free up our mental processing capabilities, those working memory capabilities that we have, so that we can focus on understanding the piece of text we're reading, or so that we can focus on the problem that we're trying to solve. When we aren't fluent as readers, we're spending all our mental capabilities trying to decode and labor through that piece of text. And when we're not able to quickly make a calculation and accurately use, come up with an accurate answer and come up with the appropriate tools to use, then you know, we find ourselves in math not able to really focus on the problem. So I think it's just really important for us to remember the end goal of fluency.
Yes, I agree. Thank you so much, Ellen. Did you have anything else you wanted to share as we wrap up?
I can talk a lot about this. I think that's enough. Hopefully we've given you some ideas, things you can do at home.
Yes.
Great resources that Sadlier has. And I hope that this would be something that you can do that will have long-term benefit for your children. The more fluent we are, and we can continue to improve our fluency. 7th graders and 8th graders can continue to improve their fluency. Reading more helps accomplish that. And similarly, we want students to access higher level math. Fluency is really important to that. So it's a great time for that.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a great weekend and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.